Do Shane Beamer and South Carolina have what it takes to be a consistent contender in the new CFP era? Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. We look at South Carolina 2025, but let's look back at 24 and make the transition because it all circles around one Lenora Sellers, SEC Freshman of the Year. He was dynamic on the field, both through the air and on the ground. He can run through you or around you, and he's got a rocket arm, but also I marvel at the consistency for a freshman. 66% completion percentage. He played with great poise and great precision, and he should only be better this time around. And also keep in mind that this team was one of the most exciting to watch and this close from making the college football playoff. Exciting on the field with 4 consecutive wins in November against ranked opponents. And then also exciting off the field just to track the narrative, the stories. They tried to make the CFP, but they lost to the 2 wrong teams, Alabama and Ole Miss. They lost those tiebreakers. Had they been 9-3 against SMU's 11-2 with 2 other losses, I believe they would have made it. They had gut-wrenching defeats against both Bama and LSU early in the season, in which LSU, came back from 17 down, and Lenora Sellers missed the second half of that game. All right, let's look ahead because Sellers has a man in the backfield from Utah State to take over for Rocket Sanders. He was missed many times due to injury, 881 yards and 11 touchdowns. Rasul Faison comes in from Utah State, 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns. He will be the main guy out of the backfield. 3 starting offensive linemen back, probably the best, Josiah Thompson, but more importantly, possibly the depth of experience behind these guys. And at wide receiver, Mazeo Bennett, 30 receptions last year. Nick Harbor, one of the best athletes in college football and probably the fastest, caught 26, and he's going to have to be more of a factor this season. New offensive coordinator Mike Shula, very well-known name and much-traveled coach, heads up the offense in 2025. Okay, nobody warned any of us about how good this defense was going to be last season. With 6 NFL draft selections, 3 in the first 4 rounds along the defensive front alone. But that's, of course, bad news for 2025 as they're all gone, except for one explosive freshman in Dylan Stewart. 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. He was emerging as one of the great players in the SEC and should be even better. But depth up front is needed. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, a former 5-star, signed with Texas A&M, now on the South Carolina roster. It would be something if he would finally reach his potential. Also, Justin Okoronkwo from Alabama, another guy that's not seen the field, but based on signing with Bama and his recruiting potential could be a factor as well. Damon Clowney, name sounds familiar. 6th year coming in from Charlotte, where he produced 59 tackles and 10 TFLs in the last 2 seasons. And if he, plays 10% of the capacity of his brother, look out. South Carolina lost 2 excellent starting linebackers and their top backup. So they're counting on Sean Murphy, much like a couple of the other guys that I mentioned, to finally fulfill his potential after he produced basically nothing and stops at Alabama and Florida State. Also, though, in the secondary, when you talk about production, this guy has produced. Nickelback safety, Jalen Kilgore, 48 tackles, 3 TFLs, 5 interceptions, tied for the league lead in the SEC. Also, cornerback Judge Collier and safety DQ Smith are back with experience and productivity. The special teams basically needs to be replaced top to bottom. The place kicker, the punter, the long snapper, and more. Mason Love is a guy that's got 0 experience, but he has been penciled in as the starting place kicker. Now let's get to the schedule. Everyone wants to see these schedules and see them sliced and diced and broken down. And when it comes to South Carolina, there are very few breathers in this one. And it starts on a Sunday in Atlanta against Virginia Tech in one of these opening weekend SEC ACC battles. So this is not a give me, but South Carolina is going to be a substantial favorite in this game against a Hokies team that's probably about the 45th to 50th best team in the country, something in that range. South Carolina certainly needs to put them away. This team could be 5-0. They should be 5-0 entering Death Valley on October 11th, and then it gets mighty difficult. Final 7 games might be the toughest in the country. LSU on the road, Oklahoma. Of course, South Carolina went into Norman last year and totally dismantled Oklahoma, overwhelmed them on defense, led 21-0 before 5 minutes were gone in the first quarter. Bama, of course, there was that narrow loss in Tuscaloosa, but this time Bama's in Columbia. Ole Miss put a stomping on the Gamecocks in Columbia last year, 24-3. South Carolina goes to Oxford this year. Then they've got the bye. Whew, they're going to need a break after those 4 games. Then it's a trip to Texas A&M. Even the so-called scrimmage, the give me in the penultimate week, is against Coastal Carolina, a very capable team. And then the showdown against Clemson, and the Gamecocks have won that game against Dabo Swinney now 2 out of 3 years. Add it all up, and with the losses on defense, I find it difficult to find many wins for South Carolina in this one. I'm going to go 4-4 in the SEC, and that means they have to beat Kentucky, Vandy, and most likely Missouri to get to that 4 wins. 7-5 with the loss to Clemson overall for South Carolina as they take a couple steps back in the win column, but show that they can compete against a formidable schedule, and then look forward to a 16-team playoff going forward for Shane Beamer, as he is nowhere near a hot seat, looking good, the trajectory good at South Carolina. This not necessarily, though, the year for the Gamecocks to break through. Please join us for the rest of our previews and predictions right here at the Voice of College Football. We'll see you Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for the College Football Show.